Journal of Edgar Mansfield, July 1996. Last month, 32 students visited Shadow Point Observatory.
So first of all, let's get one thing out of the way. One of my favorite parts about this game was the voiceover done by Patrick Stewart. I think that from the very beginning, his delivery of the lines in Shadow Point is what pulled me into this world, and you couple that with the dialogue written by the writers, and I think that it creates a story that pushes itself along in a slow but steady pace. It never feels rushed, and it never feels canned. So I think that works really well for this type of puzzle game, and it really enthralled me and pulled me into the story. So to continue in the vein of the writing for this game, I think that the writers did an absolutely superb job creating a story that feels familiar in some ways, but is also totally different, and it really pulls you into what could be just another puzzle game. One of my gripes with puzzle games is the fact that a lot of the time they concentrate too much on the puzzles and not enough on the story. That is not the case in Shadow Point.
Don't leave again, okay? Stay right there. This is amazing! You could be the Royal Vizier.
I enjoyed the story just as much as I did the puzzles. In fact, the reason I wanted to complete the puzzles was because I wanted to see more of the story and to see what happened next. One of the things that this game gets right is the characters.
I was supposed to have a life by then. I was going to be a cop. 24. That's a good age, right? I can start again. Be with Zoe.
Along with that writing of the story itself, the characters are well written and fleshed out in a way that I wasn't quite expecting. You start off this game as Alex, and you don't really know anything about who you are or what you're doing there, why you're going to Shadow Point, or what the storyline is going to be, besides the fact that this young girl went missing 12 years ago. As you play through this game and progress, you really get to know this girl, Lorna, deeper than I ever expected to.
I was young. I should never have asked you to stay, much less save me. I'll solve this. I'll get the Illarite to the palace and build a new gateway. My own. I've got time, if nothing else.
When I read about this game and saw the trailer for this game, I really thought that I was going to be trying to rescue this young girl from this other world that she was stuck in, or at least trying to convince her not to be there because she needed to come home. But what ended up happening was I ended up becoming emotionally involved with the character as you see her develop over the timeline in this story.
Look at me! 30 years! Get out! I hate you! Get out! No. No. Alex. I said I've got time. You weren't supposed to leave.
Another thing this game gets right is the mechanics. You have the option to play in different styles, whether that's teleporting or smooth motion. You can have smooth turning or click turning, and the ability to move around in this puzzle environment works really well, even with the disorienting times within the game. There'll be times you're standing on a wall or a ceiling, and the ability to look around in VR is really what allows this puzzle game to work. Personally, I actually think this game gets the length right as well, because a puzzle game can be too long and it can be too short. I think that if this was an hour-long experience or even 2 hours, it would feel not very gratifying to finish. But the fact that it plays out to be about 5 to 6 hours depending on how fast you play through the game, that's a perfect length for me because you get a good story from beginning to end, a good set of puzzles, and the ability to complete it in a couple of days depending on what time you have to put into it. Audibly, the sound effects and the music are another thing that this game gets right. I think that the music sets the tone very well because depending on the time that you're visiting Lorna in this world, the music will change to really sell what the emotion of that time is. There's times when there's happiness There's times when there's sadness, and there's times when there's fear and anger, and that's all communicated very well through the music and the sound effects inside this game. Visually, this game is simplistic in style as far as it's not photorealistic. It's designed to be very abstract in a lot of ways, and it's designed to be artistic, which fits this really well with the different types of puzzles in this game and the ability to move different objects. It fits well to be artistic and to be kind of fantasy-like. This game exists in a world where things are not what they seem and things change based on your perspective. So the fact that they use this art style works very well for this game, and I think that they took advantage of what the Quest is able to do visually to really sell all of the effects in this game. Another thing that this game does right is the puzzles. I think that the puzzles are just hard enough to be frustrating if you cannot see the answer, but not so hard to make you want to stop playing. There were times when I would stand in the middle of a room or on a cliff and just think, how in the world am I going to get this puzzle done, or how does it function? But if you look at it from the right perspective, then there's always an easy answer to these puzzles. It's less about complicated puzzles and more about complicated answers. So if you can find the answer and the key, then you can easily solve the puzzle. This isn't like a Rubik's Cube where you have to keep moving things around 1,000 times. I don't like those types of puzzle games where you have to remember all these numbers and directions and it takes hours to complete one puzzle. That drives me crazy. In Shadow Point, they give you the answers to the puzzles as you lead up to them. So you'll start off on a basic version of the puzzle and work your way up to the harder version of it in each level. Speaking of the puzzles, there's a very good variation of puzzles in this game. Whether you're using light, perspective, different types of objects, pretty much everything in this is based around shadows, but the way that the shadows work or how you're going to get the pieces to solve the shadow puzzles varies from level to level. I think that Shadow Point gets a lot right. From the storytelling, the characters, the music, graphically it looks good, and the puzzles, it makes a well-rounded, overall good experience.
I'm not leaving. You can't make me. It's my world. I found it. It's mine.
For more Oculus Quest content, check out our Oculus Quest playlist, and don't forget to check out our weekly VR wrap-up show. Stay tuned for more in this series, Everything Right With, on BMF.